Hello and good morning, everybody. Just give it a few minutes while people join us. We're very prompt this morning. Great. So, welcome to today's webinar, which is all about identifying what you can automate in your contact center. So, thank you very much for joining us. I'm Kayleigh Tait, Marketing Director here at MaxContact, and I'll be hosting today's session. The focus of today's webinar is all about something that we're hearing a lot from business leaders. Where should we start with automation? There is a lot of pressure right now to introduce AI in many parts of the business. But when it comes to customer engagement, things like introducing AI chatbots, AI voice agents, digital self-serve, the pressure is really on, and for good reason. We know that AI is not new, but we've seen the technology move incredibly quickly over the last few years and really start to find where the value is driven within the customer engagement process. But what we're seeing in the market is that many organizations are still struggling with the same fundamental challenge, not necessarily how to bring your automation in, but what to automate and when to automate. Automate the wrong interactions, you can create frustration for customers, more work for your team, and even sometimes that repeat contact coming back into your teams and the wider contact center. So automating the right interaction so you can reduce that friction helps you to be able to free up your team's capacity, improve the overall customer experience. So it all sounds great on the face of it. So today we're going to take a very practical approach to answering that question. We're going to start by having a look at what UK consumers said about AI and automation when it came to interacting with companies. We interviewed over 1,000 UK consumers who had more recently interacted with a contact centre within a business. So we'll go through some of that. We'll talk through a simple framework which we use, which helps our customers identify which interactions are actually the best suited for automation and when. And then Conor is here, who I'll introduce shortly, will be showing us tools like conversation analytics, which really help uncover those opportunities directly from all the interaction data that you have within your organization. So just before we get started, housekeeping, the webinar is recorded. We are sharing it afterwards as well. So if you need to drop off and catch up, that's not a problem. We do these live every month. Things go wrong, you can tell it's live. The Q&A function is open and we do it live so we can answer any questions that you have or any thoughts that you want to share like mid-webinar, then please feel free to do that and interact with the Q&A panel. And if you find the content useful, please share it with your team afterwards or even on sites like LinkedIn. It would be very helpful for us as a growing business. So as I mentioned, for those of you who are new or newer to MaxContact, I'm Kayleigh Tait. I lead the marketing team here, work really closely with customers, product and the commercial teams to help shape how the platform evolves. My team really support on understanding customer insights, market trends to help feed into the product, the wider product team and strategy and ensure that we are addressing real challenges that businesses are facing when it comes to customer engagement. Conor here is our principal product manager. Conor leads product strategy at MaxContact and is responsible for turning customer challenges into practical, scalable solutions. He works really closely with customers and engineering to shape our AI workflow, omnichannel roadmap, and ensuring each product delivers clear operational value.
Hey, folks.
Thanks, Conor. So, and before we dive in, a quick reminder of who MaxContact are. Gosh, that wasn't a great start, was it? MaxContact is an AI-powered customer engagement platform that helps you turn every customer conversation into revenue-driving outcomes. So most customers today are using our technology to help their businesses connect every customer conversation, reduce wasted effort, and make better decisions in real time. So that leads to faster, better decisions, better conversations, and delivering outcomes that really help businesses hit their goals, whether that's to drive more sales, collect more debt, or increase or enhance the customer experience that an organization is delivering. So our platform capability now sits across a few different areas. We have got our contact center software, and that is the heart of customer communication, powered by our market-leading outbound dialing functionality. We have got conversation analytics, where insights and intelligence and compliance is all made easier. And then we have AI agents and AI chatbots, where automation of things like high volume or repetitive communication is handled. So each one of our solutions is available as a standalone offering, but the most valuable value is when the technology is all connected and working together as one platform. Great. So we're going to start by reflecting on the research that I mentioned at the start. So we commissioned an independent survey of over 1,000 UK consumers who had recently interacted with a contact centre in the last 18 months. So this was our Voice of the UK Consumer report. It is available to download. We can share the link afterwards as well for more comprehensive reading. But it really explores how people were feeling about AI, automation, human service, and omni-channel communication, and what contact centres really must do to retain customer trust as their expectations shift into faster responses in a more digital first world. So here we've got 45% of UK consumers say that they're comfortable interacting with an AI powered chatbot or a virtual assistant. Meanwhile, 36% say that they're uncomfortable. So quite a divided room when it came to the actual level of comfort with interacting with AI. If we look at the data deeper, the story gets a little bit more nuanced. So only 36% of consumers say that AI has improved their experience, and almost the same number, so 32% say it actually made things worse with the experiences that they had. So it tells us that automation isn't automatically improving customer experience. It depends entirely on how, when automation is used. And the opportunity here isn't necessarily to do more AI. It's about starting with people like you on the call today, deciding where AI sits best within your customer experience and customer journey. So to do that, it means understanding what customers are genuinely happy to areas where they're happy to self-serve, or where they expect a human, or perhaps where actually the friction or the effort to do it is much lower as well. So we also found there was a slight generational difference as well. So when looking at the demographics of our survey responders, we found that 65% of 25 to 34-year-olds are comfortable interacting with AI, but that dropped to 27% for over 55s. So obviously this is very broad brush. It's trend data. I'm not saying this is the case for everybody, but this is what the data was telling us. So if your customer base skews to a younger audience, they may feel more AI ready and feel progressive, and don't mind who they communicate with as long as whatever they're trying to do gets done. If your audience skews slightly older, in that older category, then the same strategy could actively increase friction for those folks. So, and this is where automation strategies fall down, ensuring that you are tailoring it to your audience, the type of outcome that they're looking to achieve when they're interacting with you as a business is really important. So generally where the automation is falling down is when it's built purely around internal efficiency goals and not around who the customer is, what they're trying to achieve. So before we talk about what to automate, we need to recognize something really important, and it's that balance between automation and your audience. So now let's look at when customers explicitly want a human. So 70% want to speak to a human when explaining their specific situation. 67 for emergencies, 65 for complex account queries, 61% when making a complaint. So all of these have in common, typically they might be emotional, they might be more complex or feel complex to the customer, and they might not have, I suppose, that level of trust that AI is going to understand what I want to say and empathize with the situation, or potentially they are high risk as well. So typically, this is not where we recommend automation leading. Less than 3% of consumers also say that they exclusively use digital channels. So voice is very much still central to a lot of customer engagement with brands, and 60% of these consumers say that when they pick up the phone, they're able to resolve their query much faster. So despite all of the digital transformation conversations, a lot of brands have, voice still matters enormously. And then what irritates customers? What's getting in the way? And customers aren't churning necessarily because they don't have, your business isn't using enough AI. They're churning because of friction. So 55% because of abandoned calls due to excessive wait times, 34% due to multiple transfers, 26% because they had to repeat information. This is what causes annoyance with customers when they're interacting with you as a brand. And this is a pattern that really comes through across the entire report and the data set itself. So customers are happy to self-serve when it comes to routine, repetitive tasks, things like basic payments, account queries, standard updates, perhaps even things like lead qualification, but they expect humans when it comes to emotional, complex, and urgent interactions. These are calls that don't necessarily have a clean resolution path. So it might be an elderly caller who's confused and needs someone to slow down a little bit and go at the pace that suits them. So they're getting that understanding. Could be a loyal customer who has been failed not once but twice and now is on the phone for that last time before they leave for good. So when you automate everything, that's when that can be automated. What remains typically is the harder conversations for humans, or the harder type of work. So the risk isn't that AI replaces human agents at this stage. One of the biggest automation risks is automating so aggressively that the people who are then dealing with everything left don't necessarily feel equipped to handle the conversations that they've never been trained for. So although automation is hugely valuable, and we need to automate where we can, also investing in people at the same time is critical for automation strategies to work effectively. So based on our research findings and conversations with our customers and our experience to date, we started to look at the modern inbound customer journey and what that actually looks like. So most businesses tend to treat every interaction the same, pushing things to queues for different agents. But the reality is that inbound demand isn't necessarily evenly distributed. At the start of the customer journey, generally there'll be very high volumes of simple, more repetitive questions, things that we've mentioned like balance requests, payment dates, appointment changes, status updates. These interactions are typically more predictable with lower complexity, and it's exactly where AI and automation could sit. Resolving those queries quickly through things like chatbots or AI voice agents or guided self-serve journeys helps remove volume, reduce cost to serve while maintaining an experience and meeting the customer expectations as well. At this point, they're not feeling the need to have necessarily that human to human interaction. As we move further along the journey, the volume naturally drops, but complexity starts to increase. So customers may need help completing an action, clarifying something about their account. And this is where I suppose the narrative comes in. It might feel more complex to start to talk about this situation. At this point, the journey escalates into a contact center platform where automation still has a role to play, but it's now supported by people. So things like intelligent routing, preserving context from a start of an AI conversation across then to a human in your team really helps agents understand customer situations faster, stop some of those frustrations and friction points coming back in as well. And then further along the journey, we reach that resolution stage. So these interactions typically lower volume, but much higher impact. Here, the agent is leading the conversation, but could be supported by real-time AI insights and intelligence. And then finally, we reach advocacy. And that's where if you do all these things well, and there's a that well-handled interaction can definitely turn into loyalty. So automation starts to remove the repetitive workload at the top of the funnel, and people focus on the interactions where judgment, empathy, and experience really matters. So before we talk you through how, I suppose, some of the best ways of helping to plan for automation, we've got, this is one of the outputs of a framework which we'll be talking through very shortly. So how we analyze and take a data-driven approach to what is automated is crucial to this working successfully. So Conor is going to share the how to uncover data using conversation analytics before we share this framework. So it's all about understanding where those points are within the data that you have within your contact center.
Phenomenal. Thank you, Kayleigh. Okay, so we had a look at some of those tables, and the first thing to figure out when you're like looking at which of the various use cases you can automate is to understand what the volume is of those things and what the average duration is. The average duration obviously feeds into the return investment case that you're going to put together. So the best place to go and find that is conversational analytics. So if I log into conversational analytics here and I come down to all data, I should be able to see like 100% of my data. So there's like 28,000 calls there for last month in February. So I have that call volume, I have that average duration, and I can understand how it trends. But importantly as well, I can see the intent behind all of these calls. And this is really where I want to dig into. So I can see kind of why those people were calling in the first place. Now, this screen here just shows me an overall distribution, but I'm going to drill into the topics themselves. Okay, and we'll have a look down at the kind of different, the word cloud here for the topics. So I can kind of see that technical challenges here represented 4% of those interactions. Appointment booking is over here, that's 10%. I mean, if I could just do those two, that's 14% of my calls. So really, let's just choose one. We'll pick the technical challenges and we'll drill through and begin to look at some kind of real calls so we can kind of understand what's going on underneath the hood. Okay, so here's all the calls. Let's look at this one here. It's a billing question. If I pull this up here, it says you went to pay a bill, was unable to initially because of technical issues with the company's system. I wonder how many other kind of issues are system related. So let's add that as a filter for ourselves. So we'll filter down, we'll put in the transcript search. So if the customer said the word system while they were talking to us, I'll apply that. And now we've kind of gone to a very manageable number of calls to look at. So 189. If I come in here again and kind of begin to look at the same call, I can kind of use my AI assistant. So I can say, are there potentially parts or elements of this call that could be automated? Okay, stick that in, has a little think about it, and it comes back, and yeah. So the initial greeting and the inquiry, the account verification, the payment processing, the callback and scheduling. So this is where I begin to build up a picture, and I kind of move quickly onto the next call, and I begin to look at that and understand about that, and maybe also kind of use my AI assistant to do that. So essentially, I go through all of this and I understand kind of what's happening and how to design against it. So we have the volume, we have the average duration. You go away, you kind of pick your top business case. You use the interaction data here and the transcript data to kind of understand what workflow you would put against it. If you come and talk to us, we will very happily kind of look through it and begin to kind of get our engineers on the case and understand like how we would build a workflow that would represent that. And we have a tool here, our workflow studio, that does that. So we will get our folks to build that for you. But essentially it is that kind of workflow element. So if I drill into some of these here, you can see that there are like AI nodes in the middle of these, and then the output kind of brings it to different places. So no time to talk, proceed with the call. And within it, you can kind of give the AI prompts, and you can also give the rules to that and any kind of guardrails you want to put in there. Okay. So we do all of that, and we connect it into a chatbot or an email conversation or a voice agent. And I've connected this one here into a chatbot. So if we can continue along the lines that we looked at in the beginning, which is the technical challenges, you'll see that the chatbot is asking about the billing question, actually, that the call ended up as, but also the technical issues. So if I drill into that, I can kind of chat back and forth, and that'll kind of bounce around that workflow in the right way. Oops, my apologies. And what you're trying to achieve here is that kind of containment, isn't it? So you designed your workflow well enough that you can resolve the customer's inquiry on the first call or on the first interaction. My apologies. But if you can't, then you can escalate it out. And what it'll do is it'll kind of ask you for, it's asking me here for my email address, I'm sticking it in, and it's going to send it through now to an advisor. So we can kind of side by side here. And what comes through to the advisor is like an understanding that it's all about a technical issue and a summary of what the customer has talked about to date. So then the advisor can take over from there. And that exists for our voice agents as well. So I hope you see there that from the insight to building the workflow to implementing it on one or more channels, all of this is like eminently doable. So, I mean, the big thing is getting it right in the first place with understanding the interactions behind it in the methodology that I think Kayleigh is talking to you about. So thanks for the time, and I'll talk to you later.
Amazing. So what Conor started to go through there from a conversational analytics side of things is where, as a organization, you can really start to get the data you need to build on this framework. Just bear with me 1 second. I need to share my screen now as well. So we believe that there is a logical way of approaching gathering this data and insight. Conor has worked with lots of different sized organizations throughout his career. I've worked with CX teams in large organizations, small organizations. And I think what is clear is everyone has their own way of developing this insight in order to start to make some of these decisions. What is really clear is it can be much easier with the help of technology. So, starting with real interaction data is crucial. It sounds really obvious, but it is where some organizations go wrong. Automation conversations can take place even, like I think now more so than ever, in the boardroom. You've got private equity, VC, all talking about AI and the value of it to drive your efficiency as an organization. So those conversations that typically didn't happen at that sort of level, they are being elevated to the boardroom. So it's quite understandable how some of those conversations are now filtering down from top down. And managers are often asked what they think customers contact them about, or they pick a use case because it might sound innovative. Um, so instead, I think starting with evidence is crucial. So it can mean in a very manual world where you could be pulling call recordings, chat transcripts, looking at data in your CRM, um, email interactions, disposition codes within your contact center platforms, repeat contact data. Um, what is key here is not to just look at the total volumes, but patterns. So you're looking at the top reasons for contact, what gets repeated, what drives recontact within a short period of time, 24 to 72 hours, what consistently takes under 3 to 4 minutes. And you can even start to then drill down the different customer data based on their interaction with you, the products that they bought from you, their demographic profiling. So you can start to develop and mature your automation strategy so that it is very tailored to your organization, your different types of customers, and the different products that they're consuming from you. I think what's crucial here is how you make this process repeatable. And having technology and the right platforms in place really helps you do that, because doing this once, I've seen thousands of post-its across a room before where we're mapping out the customer journey. We've got all the insights from the different teams needed to make a decision. Doing that again every three months is a massive effort. So ensuring that you can repeatedly look at your data in this way is important, so you know how to flex your automation strategy. So starting with that insight is crucial. Secondly, once you've captured the data, the next mistake some teams make is about analyzing by channel. So the call versus chat or voice versus email. Customers typically do not think the way that I think many of us in the industry think in channels. They think about the problem that they want to solve. So we cluster by intent. So instead of 20,000 calls, we ask how many payment date queries were they, how many balance requests, appointment changes, and this is where conversation analytics becomes much more powerful as well, because it can help automatically surface those topic clusters and reoccurring intents without having to do very much digging at all. Thirdly, we've got ranking by volume and effort. So that's when it becomes more strategic. So not every repetitive query should be automated. We've got two different lenses. One, from a volume perspective, how often does this occur? Two, effort, how much friction does this create? So effort includes things like handle time, transfers, repeat contacts, escalations. And then we can start to categorize it in the typical 4x4, but high volume and low effort, that's immediate automation potential. High volume, high effort, that may require journey design before automation. Could be something that you might want to plan for and work towards. Lower volume and high effort remain human, but low volume and low effort, that is something that definitely can be monitored. And if there's some quick wins that you want to test out and pilot automation in those areas, that would be a good place to pilot as well. And then finally, it's the validation. So sense checking these things with the people who are in your teams that are speaking to customers or handling these types of conversations. This step really prevents bad automation decisions. So before you automate anything, validating it with your team, asking the questions around the emotional sensitivity, you know, by automating this, do we think we are losing out? Is it a brand touch point as well that's important to you as a business? That's definitely something that needs to be considered. Some organizations could automate some of the things that customers really find nice and valuable, not necessarily resolving something in the fastest way, but it's something that they really appreciate from you as a brand. Um, do these things spike seasonally? Are there any compliance nuances that perhaps we've not considered? And is it actually, does it sound like a simple query, but more often than not, they turn into more complex conversations underneath. But on the face of it, it could look like a very easy thing to automate. For example, a payment query might be simple, but if someone then is starting to digress into actually we're having payment difficulty type of conversation, that can be more emotionally loaded and not suitable for full automation end to end. So once we've gone through the data and insight and started to look at, go on this journey, look at the data in this way, the typical outputs that we like to bucket these into are what type of queries we've got. The output should look like this. Instead of saying we think we should automate payments, you can say, well, actually, for the payment date queries, they account for 80% of contacts. They take 3 minutes on average to handle. Customer urgency is medium and automation suitability is high. So you can be more confident that 18% of your contact volume can be safely automated. You don't need to reduce cost, you release capacity, reduce wait times, abandonment, and repetition as well. So this framework really helps, I suppose, the tech helps you get the data and insight easily and track it over time as well as things develop and more of your automation initiatives take off as well, and you can learn from. So how do you know that you've got it right? So you know your automation approach is working when you see these three things improve at the same time. Firstly is the business outcomes. So whether it's reduced cost to serve, improved conversion, or better retention, from a customer experience perspective, it could be customers resolve simple issues quickly and don't need to repeat themselves. From an operational side of things, it could be that your team spend less time on repetitive tasks and more time on complex conversation. If automation only improves one of these areas, you're finding more often than not, it's probably not being implemented in the right place. So that is our framework and how we know automation is working. Conor has showed you the different ways that we are spotting it within the data across organizations and the conversations that you're having. And now I'll open the floor to me and Conor for any questions that you might have. Stop sharing my screen just 1 second so you can see us both properly. I hope audio was all right for everyone. Actually, I've just seen something in the chat. Oh. So we've got, just use the Q&A panel. Let me have a look. What is the age demographic of the people surveyed for the contact center engagement with AI? So we have, yeah. So we went through that on the slide, but in the report, there is a full breakdown of how it changes across the different demographics. We have got it by regional area as well, to see if that skewed anything, gender, to see if that did skew any of the data sets. The most interesting parts of the data and the biggest changes came down to that age side of things. So we'll share that afterwards. And if it's not fully covered, then we have got the original data set as well, which we're more than happy to share with our existing customers. And on that note as well, we do have a benchmark report, which we will be um, no, sorry, a voice of the consumer report again, which we are launching very shortly. So if you have got any specific areas that you would like to dig into, I know how much research costs for many businesses. It can be in the tens of thousands of pounds to get this level of insight from a research company. So if there's anything in like specifically that you want to know that would help you in your jobs to make better decisions, then let us know and we can consider it further to feed into the report itself. And then we've got okay, that has been answered as well. Does the research relate to just voice calls or digital messaging channels too? Yes, it's all channels. Conor, one that I'll pass over to you. So where should we start? If we don't have conversation analytics today, how would you approach this process?
It's a good question. I think if you don't have conversational analytics, you have to rely on kind of traditional call sampling. So you go into the recording manager and you begin to understand some calls. But it would be much more difficult to do because you wouldn't automatically have the grouping of intent behind them. And you wouldn't have like an assistant to be able to ask and pull the answers immediately. So it's a much longer task to do, but certainly possible.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, I have been in organizations where it's done exceptionally well. It's just very difficult to tie the data together in a way that is repeatable. So things like mapping out the customer journey, using the data and insights that Conor said that you already have, pulling all that together. There are definitely manual ways to do it. It's then just hard to see those changes over time without continually doing that exercise. Good. Okay, got another question. Where can we hear demonstrations of the AI agent interactions? I'll let you. I think, did we do it last month? I can't. We do a webinar once a month. I can't remember when we've done it, but we have done it recently.
That's it. So we have a couple of webinars that we can share equally. I mean, you can just give us a shout or give your account manager a shout and we can organize a demonstration for you. And that demonstration could take like many different paths. It could be like face-to-face. It could be just online, kind of over a team session, or we could just pass over your number and we'll get an AI agent to call you and you can have a go yourself.
Good. And I think there's a question here around, are you able to share any case studies where that has worked really well? I think perhaps about conversation analytics. Conor, I know you speak to clients all the time. If you've got anything you want to add to this, otherwise we're happy to send over some conversation analytics case studies. We've got organizations using AI agents for call containment at the start of payment reminders, negotiating payment plans. Anything to add, Conor, on any of those?
Yeah, vulnerability assessment, sales training. Yeah, there's all kinds of different use cases for it. As in addition to like what we've just shown today, like the use case for understanding where to automate and where not to automate. So Stuart, if you want to share any kind of like for the specific kind of topics that you might find interesting in case studies, then I'm sure we can find the right one for you.
Good. How do we how do we avoid automating something that frustrates customers?
So when you put the automation in, it causes frustration.
Yeah,
Is
I think
that
so.
the question?
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to see that immediately. So like all of the whether it's a chatbot or whether it's a voice agent, they're all going to be have a transcript to them. So you'll see the drop-off points as well, and so you'll understand the most common drop-off points there. Equally, there'll be like an escalation path in there to stop people getting frustrated so they can kind of escalate out. So by just monitoring your containment rate, you'll know if you've done it right or not. And sometimes you have done it right, but like 3 months, 6 months later, there's like drift or change in the market conditions, and you need to come back to it and make a couple of small tweaks in order to like keep it singing and dancing for customers.
On that topic, how often should we be looking at this data to ensure that it is optimized? Is it like a weekly job that's recommended, or to check in
Certainly
on
not
the
weekly.
automation?
Yeah. I mean, I'd want to kind of like still have the drop-off rates in front of me just in case there's any issues. I don't think it will be about like changing paths on a weekly basis. It's more just understanding if there's any problems that are cropping up. I would certainly look at it on a quarterly basis.
Yeah.
And also, I think it depends on how fast your market is moving. So, if it's a little faster, there's a lot of change, there's a lot of newly introduced regulation, then you might want to do it more often.
Yeah. Good. Let's see if there's any more questions. If there's not. I think that's it for questions. So thank you very much for joining us on today's webinar. I hope you found it useful. If you've got any feedback, it would be great to hear from you. And the follow-ups to some of the questions that we've got around seeing the product in action, like Conor said, more than happy to schedule an actual demonstration for you that's tailored to your automation use case. And we can share case studies afterwards as well. So yeah, the benchmark report, the voice of the, gosh, got so much research going on. The voice of consumer research will be linked as well in the email. So if you've got any specific questions about any of that data, more than happy to answer it. And ideas or thoughts and things that would help you in the future that you want to input into the research, then please shout out to us and respond to the email. It'd be really helpful. We want to make sure that the research is as valuable as possible for you. And then finally, if you want to start to look into the automation journey more closely, then we're more than happy to schedule a consultancy session with someone from customer success who will help run through the MaxContact automation framework with you. And we can talk about how we bring this to life for your organization. But thank you very much, Conor, and thank you everyone for attending.
Cheers, folks. Thank you.
Lovely to see everyone. Bye.